Hey, it's your financial maven, Samantha Mittman-Besnoff, CPA. And for the last 30 years, yes, 30 years in the accounting world, I absolutely love sharing my insights and passion about money for individuals, entrepreneurs, and small business owners. Knowing your money and hopefully feeling less stressed about your money is what I call being financially empowered. Welcome to the Your Financial Maven podcast. Welcome to the latest episode of Your Financial Maven, where we talk all about money, whether it's in your personal life or if you are a small business or entrepreneur. Today, I have with me a small business owner and entrepreneur, Alisa Kabakoff, who is the owner and creative director of Knit Me, Sew Me, which is 100% made in the USA handcrafted business. And I know that some of my other guests are small business owners, but have been financial planners, other accountants, things like that. But I love when I have small business owners on because I think it's important to hear it directly from them, how things work for their business. So Alise, welcome so much to Your Financial Maven.
Hi, thank you very much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Yes, I'm so excited for this interview. So before we really get started with the questions, I want to know how you got started in your business, what led you to really want to become a creator, a designer of handmade crafts, and get yourself out there.
Well, basically, I have been knitting and crocheting and sewing since I was 13. So it's been a long time. My mother taught me to knit and crochet. Her mother taught her, my grandma, and I learned how to sew in grade school. And so it just kept going throughout my lifetime. And then my mom suggested I started a business in 2000 because I had more designer sweaters and sweater sets that I could possibly wear. And I just said, okay, what did I know about starting a business? Nothing. But the business has evolved a lot since 2000. It's almost 25 years.
I was going to say, we're coming up to almost 25 years, and it's amazing to be able to sustain that. I mean, I can knit, I can crochet. I can only do a little bit at a time each day just because of my hands and my arthritis I have. But I love that. And I learned from my grandmother. Well, she tried to teach me, and then I had to kind of learn it on my own because she was so fast at it that I couldn't always keep up with her. She could crochet a very thick blanket, I think, in 3 days. It was amazing. And I love that. And I love that you say you started your own business. You didn't really know what you were doing. So I want to ask, from the perspective of being a small business owner, what is money to you, or the financial side of the business to you mean?
Actually, honestly, the financial side of the business isn't the most important part. Knock wood, my husband and I are comfortable, which gave me this opportunity to turn my hobby into a business. So the money isn't all that important. I do watch my expenses. I do want to make sure I have more sales than my expenses, like any other small business. But for me, the most important part of Knit Me, Sew Me is trying to get people to think a little bit differently about how they spend their hard-earned money, whether it's something for them or they're buying a gift. So for me, the hurdle is, okay, handmade is not necessarily more expensive, but what you're buying is expertise and quality and uniqueness, which actually saves money in the long run.
And you're buying time too, because it takes you time and care. I am sure when you're sewing or knitting or doing your work, it's that love and passion that goes into that particular piece every time you do it.
Yes, exactly. And so, for me, I did a boutique in April, and this gal I hadn't seen in over 20 years came into my booth with a friend of hers, and she said, "Do you remember when we came over to your house 20 years ago to buy scarves?" And I looked at her and said, "Honestly, I don't." She said,
Right.
"We came in to tell you that the scarves are in the same condition now that they were 20 years ago when we first bought them."
I think that's amazing. Absolutely. And I know that you say that the money isn't the important part because you're creating and you're selling and you're doing customer service. But I would think that you've also learned in these 24 years, it's still important to pay attention to how those finances are working for your business so that you can adjust where you need. So is there any kind of story or anything that you can share as you're learning the process over these last 24 years when it comes to understanding, even if it's just understanding money coming in and money going out, kind of what you've done to help yourself in that regards.
Well, I have two favorite 4-letter words. It's free and sale.
Okay.
Okay.
I love it.
So any free version, a matter of fact, I just upped my Alignable membership to premium because they basically decimated the free one, and you get more benefits, which is fine. But for me, I look for things on sale. I look for stuff I can get for free. Part of that is being extremely thrifty. So I use every piece of yarn that I have, and I find projects if I have little tiny balls of leftovers, things that I can make to use that up.
So you're maximizing what you have. And for those that don't know, Alignable is like a networking, online networking organization. Like you said, you can do it for free, you can add premium, that kind of thing. But yeah, I think maximizing and no waste, kind of like when people say when you're cooking, try to compost or no waste your food, and it helps the environment and things like that. So that's definitely a way. And I know you say thrifty, but I feel like as a business owner, because I'm a small business owner too, you're trying to maximize not only your potential for growth, but really that ability to provide for your clients, I would think.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. And one of the things that is probably the most important thing about Knit Me Sew Me is our personal customer service. And that's what sets me apart from everybody else. Whether you come into my booth at an in-person boutique, I'm old school retail, so you get like a personal shopper sort of experience.
I love that.
But on the flip side, if somebody orders something from the website or they have questions, my phone number's there, my email is there. People can call me, text me, whatever, email me, and I get back to them right away. And usually we set up a call, and then I go through their questions and make sure that they're satisfied with the answers and they feel comfortable.
Well, and that's important too. Customer service, that is a value that you're providing. And as a business owner, I think that's important too, because as you build your pricing into your products, whether you're selling something physical or a service, how you provide value to your customers kind of gives you that, I would say leg up, but it gives you that way of saying, look, I price my things the way I do, not just because I'm making it and selling it to you, but there's something that goes with it. And that customer service is usually what goes with it.
Yes, because I know now you go into a department store or I see these commercials for Home Depot and Lowe's, and there's all these people around. However, when you go into a Home Depot or a Lowe's, try to find somebody
Right.
to help you, sort of thing.
Right.
And so that's exactly what you won't get at Knit Me Sew Me.
So I want to take a little bit of a step back because I know that part of your creating of your business was learning from your grandmother and your mother and seeing what they did, and also that push from your mom to kind of, hey, go into business for yourself. But what are the things as you were growing up from that personal financial side, your money story, or anything that you've learned along the way that kind of helped you have that confidence? Because a lot of small business owners don't, like you, say, the financial's there, the money's there, but you still have to pay attention to it. What are the things that maybe you learned as you were growing up that has helped you when it comes to understanding the money side or running of the business?
Well, I went to high school in the dark ages.
So did I.
I mean, I'm a lot older than I look, put it that
Yeah.
way. And one of the classes that I took was general business.
Oh,
Which
nice.
they don't have that anymore.
No.
And it's really sad because you learn a lot about money and credit
Yeah.
and, things like that. Just like a general overview of finance. But my mother was a bookkeeper and then became a bank teller. I have never seen anybody balance a checkbook without a calculator like my mother used to do. And I was in college and I needed a credit card. I didn't have a credit card. So she got me a credit card with my name on it under her account. When she handed me the card, before she let go of the card, she said, and like we were tugging on it,
Right,
she
right.
said, whatever you charge on this card, when you sign the slip in the store or wherever you are giving your word that you are going to pay this. And she said, so when I get the bill and I see what you've charged, you're going to make that promise to pay me whatever you spent. And then she said, don't F with your credit.
Right, exactly. Right. Great advice. Great advice.
Yeah.
Right.
She said, if you mess up your credit, I mean, back then they didn't have these credit companies that will help
Right.
you get
And
your
everything was
credit rating
done with
back.
the triplicate, right? Do you remember you'd put the card on the
Yes.
little tray and then it would
Yeah.
slide across
And it had the carbon paper and
the
it was
carbon
messy.
paper? Yeah, these kids
But
these
yeah,
days don't
they
understand
don't understand that.
the coming off the carbon and the sliding.
But see, she taught me the value of a dollar. She
Yeah.
always told me that money didn't grow on trees. And when I signed a credit slip, that it was my word, my oath, my bond to pay it back. And if you didn't think that little conversation didn't scare the bejesus out of me,
I'm sure that it did.
at like
Right.
17, 18 years old.
Right.
And I've been through a lot of financial tumult in my life, but my credit never got messed up, thank God. And I've always been very conscious about having money, having like an emergency fund,
Very
having a
important.
stash sort of thing.
Yeah.
And that comes from a few of the little scrapes I got into in my 20s and my 30s. And then I learned at that time that there are certain things that are more important than other things, like saving for your future,
Yeah,
like investing
definitely.
for the future. These are
Yes.
things that I learned along the way. So I'm glad that I had that education plus, that conversation with my mother, that still rings in my ears to this day, even though she's been gone for 14 years. It's like, the tug of war with the card.
But that's important too, because now you're getting into business. You've been in it almost 25 years. And that kind of that history, that stuff that you learned, it's the same for a business. If you have a business credit card, the same thing. Like I was saying, we had to put the card on a tray and slide it. I mean, when we were growing up, when you go to pay your bill, you had to write a check and put it in the mail. And if you're due a month later, you have to time it to make sure that it gets to them on that due date. You don't mail it on the due date. It has to be in their hand on the due date. Now, everything's digital, right? Electronic. You just go in and set the date for payment and then it'll take it for
Oh,
you.
that's so much easier.
It is so much easier. I agree.
It saves the environment. Stamps are expensive. You don't have
They
to.
are
I mean, I've got
expensive. Yeah.
red markings on my calendar, like when my bills are due and when I need to pay them. So, I mean, that's one of the advantages, I think, of technology is the fact that you can pay, like I could deposit checks into the business's account at my house. I don't have to go to the bank anymore and wait in line. So there are some advantages to doing that, but I balance the business's checkbook every month to make sure everything's copacetic. My California state tax return is due by January 31st. So all the sales tax I collect in California, I file the tax return. I do have to write a check.
So you're in California. So I'm in Pennsylvania, and it depends. You can be quarterly, monthly, annual, or semi annual for sales tax. All depends on your sales. But you make a good point that it's not just working on your, as a business owner, your income tax return or business tax return. You've got potentially payroll, you've got potentially sales tax returns that you have to file. Those are things that you have to still be aware of. And I think your experiences growing up and understanding that importance that money's there, it's there to use, it's there to help you grow the savings of it, whatever, but you still have to pay attention for your business. And I think you would agree that your personal side of financial can help, or it could hurt you in your small business if you're not understanding it. But I do think that foundation can help you as an entrepreneur, as a small business owner.
Oh, absolutely. And I was just very fortunate that my parents always lived within their means. And when I met my husband, his parents always lived within their means, and we live within our means. And we just don't buy frivolous stuff. I mean, my car is almost 21 years old and it's still in perfect condition. I mean, I don't buy clothes anymore because I work from home. I have my nice tops, but in the summer it's t-shirts and shorts, and in the
Right.
winter it's long sleeve shirts and yoga pants.
Right.
Sort
Right.
of thing. But as long as I look presentable from the the
Waist
top
up.
up,
Right.
and I got my makeup on, it's all good.
I have to tell you, so I was rushing out the door today and I was grabbing something out of the fridge and I dropped a bottle of half open wine on my floor. The bottle didn't crack, but the red wine spilled all over the fridge and all over my pants. And I'm wearing a boot on my right foot because I got an injury on my foot. And my son was home working and he helped me clean it up, but I had to get to the office. And I'm sitting here, shirt's great, but my pants, my cream pants have like red wine spots all over them. I'm fine, but I agree with you. I think as business owners, especially as an entrepreneur, we own our own business, we're doing things for ourselves. We have that flexibility. And I'm sure when you first got started, it was a little hard, right? The advertising, the marketing, getting that information out there, but you've been doing it for 24 years and you've grown that business. So you really have to be able to understand the highs and lows of being an entrepreneur. You're going to have good times and bad times. So what are some tips you can give other people who are thinking about starting their own business when it comes to not just the financial side, but just doing the business itself?
One of the things that I realized when my hobby that always wanted to be a business became a business that used to be a hobby, and I crossed that line, I had no idea how difficult it was going to be and how much other work besides me blocking out time to make things would be. Because when I first started, I was working full time. I was doing this part time. I was doing my in person boutiques. And then once I got the website, that was a whole new ball game. And then there's social media, and that's another ball game. And for now, with me, I'm on Alignable. I'm doing a lot of networking. I've gotten a lot of business off Alignable, but I've made phenomenal connections with a lot of folks who have supported me. But I will say that I think it was at the end of 2022, I didn't have a really good year and I was really down in the dumps. And I called my sister and I said, I don't know if I can make this work anymore. And she looked at me and she said, Lise, you have two options. She said, you can quit, which means that this over 20-year journey that you've been on is going to fall by the wayside. Or you could put on your big girl panties and you can put one step in front of the other and move on. So I decided to move on. Last year was pretty okay. This year I've had a lot of expenses. My new website just went up, so that cost me a small fortune. And I've decided on the social media to pull back. I mean, everybody wants to help me, and I just don't have that kind of money. So I don't know if I'm going to start doing it myself or I'm just going to take a different tact on that.
But you bring up a valuable point there of it's okay to reassess your business. It's okay to take a step back and say, one, am I still passionate about what I'm doing? And two, do I need to shift some things to continue the growth, or the growth is good, I want to keep it steady? I think small business owners, it helps them from a financial side if they take that step back and do a review. And there's nothing wrong with that. I've done some shifting myself in my business. And like you, I'm in a little bit of a down thing with the accounting work. And that's okay because I still love what I do. But it's that networking. That networking, I think, is key. Whether you do it online through somewhere like Alignable, or I'm part of two chambers here where I live. Chambers are great for small business owners, and other kinds of networking. Like you do your boutiques, you do the shows, and you're still networking. I think it's great.
I mean, I have a guest book that I put out at my boutiques, and it's like a wedding guest book. It's exactly
Yeah.
a wedding guest book. I have people sign up for my email list, but the first thing I say to them is, I do not spam. First of all, I don't have time to be writing an email every single day. That's one
Right.
thing.
I don't either.
But I value their time as much as I value my time. And I've got like 3 pages left on this guest book. And I happened to recently look at the front of it. It started in 2012, and my email list has got almost 800 people on it. And when I send out an email, about 50% of the people actually open it and read it.
Yeah. And that's okay. Honestly, I do the same thing with my clients. I'll send them information and I don't get all of them opening it, which is okay. I mean, when it comes to tax time, if they missed something, I try to say, hey, I tried to inform you. But, people get on these lists, they want to understand or know your products, or they see it come through, they might not open it right away. But I think that's an important part too about the marketing of a business, and that it's also okay if you're able to ask for help when you need it too, as a small business owner.
And I actually have done that. I had a gal who did knitting for me until recently. She got a full-time job, so she's not my knitter anymore, but I have a crochet gal who lives 10 minutes from the house, and both of them gave me samples of their work so I could make sure it looked just as beautiful as mine. My crochet gal, she makes some of the kids' hats for me. She makes the pieces, but I put them all together. So the bottom line is I have my hand on every single piece of merchandise from Knit Me Sew Me. But also, along with that, there's 1099 forms.
I was just going to say to you that, I think entrepreneurs and small business owners who may not have staff or work for themselves, like myself as well, have to understand that there are all these other pieces, like the 1099 work that has to go out when you're paying contractors or vendors or whoever's not an employee that reach a certain limit. And I think you make a good point that I don't think we ever turn off our business. It's 24/7 to a degree, but I think self-care is important too. Hey, it's time for a money break. Welcome back from our money break. Is there anything else, whether you view it from how financially or how the business runs or as an entrepreneur, that you think is important for other small business owners and entrepreneurs to understand when having their own business?
I think you need to make sure, obviously, that you don't run up debt on credit cards.
Very good point. Very good
I
point.
think there's places like the SBA, the Small Business Administration. There's places where you might be able to get a low interest or no interest loan. I don't know. I've never had to do that, but there are avenues like that where you could look for financial help if you need it.
Absolutely. There are definitely grants out there. Yeah.
And I always keep a big chunk of change in the business's checkbook just in case. It doesn't earn any interest. I don't care. I just want to know when I open up the checkbook and I see XYZ that my heart isn't like pounding out of my chest because there's not enough money.
Right. Well, and that's a good point. You should be still paying attention whether you open up your checkbook or you do an Excel spreadsheet or you're using a software, an accounting software. You should, even at a minimum every week, take a look at everything. Make sure if you wrote a check or sent a bill to somebody to pay that it cleared so that you're not hanging on to that. I mean, I think that reviewing your financials, even if you don't understand all aspects of it, but you know what money came in and you know what money goes out, you should review it at least every week, in my view, to help with the small businesses. And you do bring up a good point with SBA. There's also places like here where I live, we have Assets and Score, and they help entrepreneurs and small business owners with different things.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And I mean, it's just important just to realize the self-care is really important. For me, I take a lunch break every day. I put my phone on sleep mode when I go to bed. I don't want to hear it buzzing, dinging, ringing, whatever. If somebody wants to contact me bad enough, they'll text me or they'll leave me a message or they'll send me an email and I can deal with it the next day. And I try to get at least 8 hours of sleep every night because if you're not taking a lunch break, that means your brain's not getting any food. You're not
Very
getting
true.
time away from all of this. You need to take a break.
Well, and it helps with the productivity, right? It can help
Exactly.
you if you're trying to grow. And, people out there want to make all kinds of money with their business. And I think that's fabulous. But having the ability to take a step back, take self-care, I would take emails and calls all hours of the day. And I've learned I have my boundaries. Now, during tax season, I am working every day. I'm doing stuff, but I also have boundaries with my clients. If they email me at 1 a.m, I'm still not messaging them back till the next day. Like, that's just not
Exactly.
happening.
I mean, you can be a business owner, but you have to have a life.
Right. I agree.
You have to
I
get
agree.
this work-life balance. For me, it works out great because I work from home. I don't have to drive anywhere to do Knit Me Sew Me, except, I'm going to Orange
Well,
County this
right. You
weekend for
go for the
boutique,
shows and stuff.
the shows and
Right.
everything. But I just walk into my office and it's a done deal. I mean, I don't put much miles on my car. I don't spend much on gas because in California, everything's expensive.
It is expensive. Yeah. But I do think that for each business owner, their situation, whatever they're doing will dictate what they're spending, or do they have to travel far? Do you use or have you used at all during the years someone professional to help you at least doing the tax work or doing any of the accounting for your business? And if not, that's fine. But I'm curious, like, what is your thought process on that kind of getting professional help where needed?
Okay, well, I use Excel. I literally have a spreadsheet for everything, like gasoline, the electric bill, the gas bill, because we can write off part of that because I work from home. So every year I create the same spreadsheets with a new date and a new year, a new folder. And my business is a DBA, it's a doing business as. So it's run off my social security number, which means we file everything from the business with our tax return.
Right. Your Schedule C, sole proprietor, and that's fine. So for you, this is what's worked. And I think a lot of entrepreneurs, and when I talk to people, when I talk to prospective clients, I say, here's what I can offer you. Here's my rate. This is how I can help you. But if you really just want to utilize an Excel spreadsheet or even very simple accounting software to do that work, there is no shame in that. There is nothing wrong with wanting to have that kind of control or being able to do that work. But like you said, you still have to make time for that too. You're doing your business, you still need to try to make time for that.
Oh, yeah. I get a receipt for everything. I have an envelope. I have a Redwell for every year, and it's got 3 envelopes: sales receipts for when people come to the house and shop, gasoline, all my gas receipts. And when I do, I have my expenses and gasoline on one spreadsheet with 2 pages. So the first one's expenses, second one is mileage. So everything I do for the business, I write that on there. And then the third one is expenses, and I get a receipt for everything.
And I think you're right in that, in the sense that every expense should be tracked. I mean, I have clients that they'll use their credit card to pay for their expenses for the business, but then they record it as credit card expense and not each individual transaction. And I always say to my clients, I know that it might seem overwhelming. You may have, 10 transactions a month, but those have to be recorded as the individual expense, because that's how you're able to reduce your gross income to be able to file your return and not necessarily pay a lot in either self-employment tax and or business income tax, depending on your business structure.
Exactly, exactly. So my expense sheet has like yarn and notions, postage,
Right. I love it.
website,
Right.
boutiques,
Right.
miscellaneous. I mean, there's social media.
And it works for you. So these are great ideas and tips, how Alise is doing her accounting for her business is what works for her. And I think that's what's important to know here too, is it's not a cookie cutter necessarily way of doing it. I think the biggest thing is to know you have income, which is the money you're bringing in, and then there's expenses. And you may have things you're not sure are expenses, but you can still note it and try to determine how that works with the business as well.
Yeah. And that's when my CPA helps me if I have a question.
I love it. And you know what? That's an important point there too. I think it's good to ask a professional if you have a question. I have people call and just ask me a quick question. They just have a question. And I'll sit down and say, okay, what's your question? And I help them. And they may not become a client, but I feel it's important to have that conversation. As we wrap up, anything else you'd like to share about your business, where we can find you, anything else from a how to run a business or what you've learned as being a business owner these almost 25 years you'd like to share?
Most importantly for me, it's always putting my customers first. One of the things I learned is that you have to be transparent, open, and honest. And if you have all 3 of those things, you will not go wrong. The business doesn't do anything underhanded, shady, illegal. I mean, if the state of California, the city of LA comes knocking on my door and want to see my books,
Right.
it's like, here you go.
Right. Take it.
And one of the things with California, I don't charge sales tax outside of California. I only do it in California because I have a resale license. So I've had people who say to me they want to buy something, and then I tell them how much it is with the tax, and they say, well, I don't want to pay tax. I said, everybody pays tax in California. And how do I know that person doesn't work for the state board?
Right.
And
Understood.
coming around like
Right.
a secret shopper to find out if I'm paying tax. A lot of my crafter friends don't charge tax. They supposedly back it out later. No, I'm not backing it out because
Right.
you know what? That eats into my profit.
You're right.
And
Right.
and you know what? My prices are so reasonable the way it is. I don't want to back out anymore, sort of
Right.
thing.
Well, and the important thing that you're bringing up here is, and this has become an issue, is this idea of sales tax and where the business is located compared to where you might be sending the product. And that is a big area that the IRS is really taking a look on. And I really should say the State Department of Revenues is really taking a look at, more so than the IRS. And I think it's important that if you don't understand it, if you have a professional, talk to them about it. There are places that you can research. I think there's Alavara and TaxJar regarding that with sales tax. So I think you make a very good point that, people say, well, I don't want to pay sales tax. Well, that's part of my price. I have to remit it, and that's part of my price.
It's like if you go into Macy's and you buy something, do you go to the counter and say, I don't want to pay sales tax? It's the same thing.
Right. I mean, there are about 5 states that don't charge sales tax, so I can understand that. But you're right. Most places, depending on, like here in the state of Pennsylvania, there are some things that, of course, are not taxed. But you go into a store, you go buy something, most likely you're going to pay the 6% sales tax that we have.
Oh,
Now, I
lucky
know
you.
California is larger.
Yeah, we pay 9.5 in LA, but we don't pay sales tax on food. But like toilet paper and stuff like that, you pay sales tax on. But if it's actual food that you eat, you don't pay tax
And
on
you're
that.
providing a product and something that's beautiful and created and handmade and all. Alise, this has been fabulous. Is there anything else you'd like to share with regards to your business?
Actually, there is. For those of you who don't know, this is Lucky Ducky. This is my company mascot.
Oh, I like that.
I just launched my new website at knitmesewme.com. And Lucky Ducky has his own category on the ribbon.
Oh, I love it.
And I just took him to Europe. So there's going to be more videos coming. And his name is Daniel. So I just named my duck Daniel.
Oh, I love that. Lucky
And
Ducky's name is Daniel.
you betcha. And I've been making custom ducks for people. And it's been just hysterical. But it's more than just the ducks. I make products that you will not find in mass retail. And that's really important for your listeners to know is that I don't mass produce anything.
Okay, that is good to know.
When they're getting something from Knit Me Sew Me, they're getting something that's unique, handcrafted, with expertise, and it's made to last. And if you want the most bang for your buck, then always go handmade, whether it be with Knit Me Sew Me or with somebody else, or if you go to a boutique or a craft fair or something, seek out the artisans who handcraft because we're all small businesses and we need support too.
I agree. Thank you. I will make sure that the website is in the podcast detail when the episode is out. And maybe I can share some pictures of Daniel the Duck and some of your other creations as part of the promo for that too.
Sure, absolutely. Just let me know what you need and I'll send it along.
I love that. So Alise, thank you so much for joining your Financial Maven.
Thank you for having me. It's been a real pleasure.
Absolutely. Follow, like, and subscribe to Your Financial Maven wherever you listen to your podcasts. And make sure that you leave your money stories or questions for me at www.yourfinancialmavenpodcast.com. I cannot wait to hear what you have to say about money. The purpose of this podcast is to provide general information on the subjects discussed. It is for educational, informational, and entertainment purposes only. It is not meant to resolve your specific financial needs or situations. Please consult with your CPA, tax, or financial professionals. Your Financial Maven is hosted and produced by Samantha M. Besnoff, CPA, and Your Financial Maven, LLC. Editing is done by Chris Zarnock of KM Zen Creative. Music is written, composed, and performed by Daniel Shore.